Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I am asking the question, is Zoroark about to fall off? And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't believe at the moment there's any real argument about the fact that Zoroark GX is the best Pokemon in the format. The ability trade allows you to discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. That's amazing in terms of giving you extra consistency. And the attack Riotous Beating for just a double colourless energy. So it's a single energy attack, 20 damage for each Pokemon on your side of the field, full bench, 120 damage, 150 with a choice band. And of course, the fact that it's a single energy means you can abuse Ace Roller to heal yourself up and then keep hitting. Ladies and gentlemen, Zoroark is everywhere. When I made a video about Zoroark a while ago, a whole bunch of people said, Ross, it's not that good. It's only good and expanded with Skyfield. Well, it has been proven to be very, very good. But the thing is that any Pokemon that gets too good has a target on its back. So for argument's sake, let's take Garbodor. At the Seattle Regional Championships last year, 24 of the top 32 decks were Garbodor. 6 of the top 8 decks were Garbodor. It was 75% of both top 32 and top 8. So people started building their decks so they have fewer items in their discard. Garbodor having Trash Lancer does 20 damage for each item in your opponent's discard pile. And now Garbodor, it's making a bit of a comeback, but it's not as good as it was. So now the question is, what's going to take down Zoroark, if anything? And ladies and gentlemen, we've got some really good candidates right now. Chief among them, at the moment, Buzzwole. Last weekend, in Australia, Zoroark took down the tournament, Tour Direct Lev 1, with Zoroark Gardevoir. I made a video about that, go check it out. But it almost didn't. Buzzwole came around with Lycanroc and made it to the final, taking out Zoroark Gardevoir in top 4. Buzzwole came very, very close to beating it. Buzzwole has got Jet Punch, 30 to the active, 30 to one of the bench for just 1 fighting energy. That means a Zorua with weakness will instantly be KO'd by this. It means that if you can put 30 damage from a Jet Punch onto a Zoroark, then all you need to do is use a Choice Band with a strong energy and a single Regirock on the bench, and then you'll actually get a single energy KO on a Zoroark as long as you put 30 on it from a Jet Punch earlier in the game. Not to mention, of course, that a whole bunch of players play this with Max Elixir. Max Elixir being great because it accelerates your energy onto basic Pokemon. And then you have free energy on, you use Knuckle Impact, getting a very, very easy KO on a Zoroark. Buzzwole is not beating Zoroark at the moment, but it hasn't half done pretty well at keeping it in check. Zoroark is probably the best deck right now, no matter what it's paired with. But certainly there are a whole bunch of players around that have seen success with Buzzwole. At the Leipzig Regional Championships 3 weeks ago, Zoroark didn't win, Buzzwole did. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want an answer to Zoroark, Buzzwole might just be it, but it's not the only answer we've got. Don't forget about Garbodor. Now, Garbodor's a bit of a weird one, because Garbodor isn't going to knock out Zoroark, Garbodor isn't going to run through a Zoroark deck. What it is going to do is turn off the trade ability, and trade is one of the very best things about Zoroark, so if you can turn off that trade ability, all of a sudden Zoroark is a lot less good, which means that people have less incentive to play it, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very fun thing indeed. But now that Ultra Prism is out, and this weekend is the very first weekend where Ultra Prism is legal, we have a couple of threats that could really hurt the playability of Zoroark. I'm not going to sit here and say Zoroark's going to see no play going forward. What I am going to say is that Zoroark's got such a big target on its back, and there are so many things that are now gunning for Zoroark, that it becomes a much, much riskier play than it was in the past. So let's start off by looking at Weavile. Weavile is an incredibly good card from the recent Ultra Prism expansion. For a single Darkness Energy, 50 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon that has an ability. Count the number of Pokemon with abilities on your opponent's side of the field, times it by 50, that's how much damage you do. In a world where everybody's already playing Tapu Lele, this is pretty nice. I mean, let's take Zoroark with Gardevoir. Well, Gardevoir's got an ability, and Zoroark's got an ability, and Tapu Lele's got an ability, and Gallade's got an ability, and Octillery's got an ability. Now, you're not actually going to play Octillery in this particular deck, but you see where I'm going with this. So many abilities. And to be honest, if you have a perfect setup with Zoroark Gardevoir, you are actually going to have 6 Pokemon out with abilities. Now, a good player when facing down a Weavile is not actually going to get 6 Pokemon out, all of whom have abilities. But the fact remains that this is going to force your opponent to play in a way they don't want to. It's going to make you look at your opponent and go on then. Do you really want to get 4 Zoroark out? Because if you get 4 Zoroark out turn 2, which a lot of people want to do, that's how you draw lots of cards, then with a choice band, Weavile does 230, that's assuming no Tapu Lele or anything else, and you're done. Ladies and gentlemen, Weavile comes along, and for Quad Zoroark decks, they can't go Quad Zoroark. Because as soon as they go with 4 Zoroark, they lose. Like, straight away. Because Weavile is a single prize Pokemon, and Weavile attacks for 1 energy. Which means that Weavile comes along as a phenomenal check for any deck like Zoroark Gardevoir that's coming around. Now, of course, Weavile can be played around. Your opponent can always make sure they've only got 2 Pokemon with abilities out, so that they stay outside of a range of a Weavile. But then, of course, they are having to constantly try and make sure that they're controlling the abilities. It means they are evolving fewer Zoroark than they would like, just to make sure that they're not going into range of Weavile. I've been watching the Malmo stream this weekend run by the lovely Limitless TCG, and there are a whole bunch of Zoroark decks with Weavile, and of course it's Zoroark with Weavile, doing the rounds at that tournament, because it really does make sure that your opponent has to keep their abilities in check. And the one thing we can say about Zoroark is, as good as the attack is, the ability is maybe the best thing about Zoroark, and it's an ability where you want multiple. These decks tend to play Puzzle of Time, because you get 1 Puzzle of Time in hand, and then you use 2, 3, 4 trades to draw into the other Puzzle of Time. Weavile could be a good check on Zoroark. And the last Pokemon I want to talk about in this video, the last card, which could potentially mean that Zoroark has to take a bit of a backseat, is Glaceon GX. Glaceon is another card from Ultra Prism, and really it's the ability here, Freezing Gaze. Your opponent's EX and GX Pokemon have no abilities, except for Glaceon. So if there's 2 Glaceon out, then neither player has EX or GX abilities. It turns off Zoroark. Now, it also turns off Tapu Lele. And as I always have to mention when I talk about Glaceon, don't forget the Energy Evolution Eevee, which means you can actually have a turn 1 Glaceon, turning off your opponent's Tapu Lele from the beginning of the game. You get a Glaceon out and your opponent can't use trade. Now, the really bad thing, or good thing depending which side of the table you're on, about turning off trade is that these Zoroark decks are generally built with multiple Bridget to get Zoroark out. But then they play fewer copies of cards like Professor Sycamore and N, because the theory very simply is, well, as soon as I've got Zoroark out, I can just keep using trade and then I'm good. I don't need to be using draw supporters, because I've got trade to draw the cards I want to draw. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when you run into a lot of trouble. because you don't have the draw supporters, you're relying on trade, you don't have trade, you don't draw very much, and it's all very well and good saying, well, if I draw an ace roller, I can just heal up completely and then hit again with Riotous Beating, but you don't draw into the ace roller. I'm not saying that Zoroark is a bad play, and certainly I've mentioned Weavile, but people are saying that the best partner is Zoroark. And I've mentioned Glaceon, and people are saying the best partner is Zoroark. So even these cards that counter Zoroark are still largely played with Zoroark. But what I will say is, Zoroark has got a target on its back. It didn't win in Leipzig, it came very close to not winning in Sydney, and it is a card that everybody is starting to counter. Although we had good counters like Garbodor and Buzzwole before Ultra Prism came out, now that we can build in Weavile and Glaceon as well, we've never had better options for countering Zoroark. And we've never had a greater need to counter Zoroark. So ladies and gentlemen, maybe it's time to reconsider Zoroark. Who knows? Hopefully you guys have an idea, and that is what the comment section is there for. Go nuts, but be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCG Radio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.